Bye-bye, lardass.
Welcome back to Sambo's place. Actually, welcome back to Sambo's messy garage. It hasn't been spring cleaned yet, so I apologize for the surroundings. But this video is going out to all of you backyard burners out there who suffer from gas. Not this kind of gas, and not this kind of gas. I'm talking about gear acquisition syndrome. You know who you are. It's the people out there who have to have the latest thing, whether you need it or not. So here it is, the latest thing, the Weber SearWood. So there's been a lot of disputes over whether or not this SearWood is American made. Let me tell you a couple of things. First of all, my wife owns a small manufacturing business here in Pennsylvania, and I could tell you that they do manufacture bolts and they do manufacture parts that go towards SpaceX, GE, Ingersoll Rand, and there's no such thing anymore as American made. Not all the parts that these manufacturers need can be manufactured inside the United States. So a lot of parts, a lot of hardware is manufactured or sourced outside the United States. Now, the question remains here really is this grill assembled in the United States? Because manufactured, not so much. Sourced, absolutely not. Is it assembled here in the United States? And I'm gonna read to you exactly what Jesse C. told me. So here goes. I'm gonna put my cheaters on. Weber grills are designed and engineered in the United States, incorporating globally sourced parts. Individual packaging displays the country where each grill was manufactured. Our accessories are designed and engineered in the United States. Many of them are sourced and manufactured outside the United States. Now, here's the tag he's talking about right here. And I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna show you this tag. And what this says is, Hencho and China, or as one of the YouTubers says, Fuyay! Okay, this is Chinese made. The directions are asking us, we don't need those. Directions are asking us to use a pair of scissors. That's right, use a pair of scissors, okay, to go through. Right on top, looks like we got our directions. We are gonna read these, we're not gonna bypass. Hardware, parts. Boy, this looks like the Firebox, and I'll tell you what, that is very heavy. That is very substantial. And a big difference between the SmokeFire and the SearWood is this is a solid stainless steel Firebox that the new SearWood gets. So I gotta tell you, they put some definite engineering weight into this. These look like ancillary parts that were never included with the original parts. I bet these are important. Another box. Ooh, look at that. We get to install our control board. To me, this looks like the bottom level of the carriage or the bottom level of the cart that this pit is going to sit on. There she is. There's our SearWood. Here we have our grill grates, cardboard. And I bet this is hardware for the bottom of the rack, carriage, deck, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I'll turn this sideways so you can see this. This is the single flavorizer diffuser bar. And tell you what, it looks stainless to me. That's for sure. Looks stainless to me. Inside this, we have the 4 legs. knowing what I know from my wife's manufacturing company, oh look, they even have colored tabs. But knowing what I know, all of this is stamped steel. And even these inside reinforcement gusset plates are all stamped. I could see the stamped edge marks. Some of them have been filed down here pretty coarsely. They didn't do a really fine job, but these are all stamped parts. So yep, that's one of the legs. I'll tell you what, comparing to the SmokeFire, this is a lot more robust and a lot more substantial. And just looking at the way it's going to mount to the rest of the carriage with 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, this is going to be a much sturdier carriage than it was on those spindly wobbly legs on the SmokeFire. These are our stainless grill grates. I'll tell you what, they look almost the same size as the ones that came out of my SmokeFire, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're the same ones. In fact, if you look at this one is labeled 16 inch by 16 inch, which tells me right now that the Weber crafted inserts will work on this. So there you go. There's your Weber crafted insert. So for all that Weber crafted insert gear that fit your SmokeFire, you're going to be able to plop this right inside your brand new SearWood. Just trying to lift this so you can see it. In here, looks like we have more pieces on the bottom of the pit. This looks like the ash pan assembly and the grease clean out on the assembly. And then we have the handles for the hood and the side of the pit. So this looks to be about all the parts. Camera off the tripod, and we could take a look inside here. Here's what our pit looks like right now. And you know what? Look at that hole. Wow, that was not stamped. This hole, geez, I don't know what they did. It looks like they used a grinder to cut this hole. And looking down in that hole, you could see down in there, there is our glow plug. Looks like that's our glow plug. And this is the end of our auger assembly, which means that this black portion is our auger tunnel. That's a much longer auger that was in the in this pit than it's in the SmokeFire. Now, looking at this, this is all, it's not forged, this is all cast aluminum. And they claim that this is identical to their gas grills. And that hood looks very, very familiar. It's not double walled, but you can see that it has a stainless guard, or the, I don't know, wait, I guess it would be a single wall of stainless that they would use as insulation. And right over here on the sides, you could see the holes for the rotisserie. But that's the inside of our pit. So here's our first measurement for you. The auger shaft right there is 13.5 inches. And then there's like another additional almost 4 inches inside this hopper, okay? So what does that tell me? That tells me that you've gone from a 7 3/4 inch auger to almost a 17 inch auger. And I guess for those of you who aren't going to cover this, or I guess for those of you who are going to be using this in an area of high moisture, that's going to add, in my opinion, to the percentage increase of auger jams as your pellets kind of decompose in there and get moist and get hard. So we're looking at a possible increase in auger jams. And while I'm here, I don't know if you could see down there, okay? There's that, look at that auger shear pin. Boy, I'll tell you what, to me, that just looks like a cotter pin. That does not look like the bolt and nut assembly that they used on the previous auger. So, ooh, boy, I don't know what to say about that right now, but I'm glad I have some extra auger shear pins and nuts, and hopefully that they'll fit that hole. Wow, okay. Here's the heart of your assembly right here. You have the assembly guide, you have a pack of hardware, and you also have an addendum in yellow with steps 7 and 11, and you get an addendum of other parts and another Allen key to install these parts. Found the piece, and I want to point out to you that one nice thing that they did was, with the lack of verbiage in the instructions, they give you some of these really cool stickers to match up to the pieces. Looks like Weber was kind enough to add blue thread locker to all the hardware that's going to be putting the or assembling the enamel pieces, the structural pieces together. So that's nice of them to include that Loctite. You know, I'm always asking myself, how tight is too tight when you put together these things? This Allen key that they gave me is junk, okay? It is absolute junk. The ends of it are starting to get rounded already. If I were, I'm trying to put this together so the average guy who maybe, or the average gal, I don't mean to be gender specific, is putting this together, is just going to use the tools that came with the grill. And I'm guessing these are metric. And what I'd really like to do is I'd really like to reach for my metric Allen key socket and load it in my drill and buzz these in. But then again, as I say, I'm always asking myself, how tight is too tight? I don't know the answer to that question. I guess when you start to see the metal bend, notice how the thing is this junk Allen key is just slipping out of this hole. I don't even think this thing's gonna last through the whole assembly. What a piece of crap. So here we are after step 7. Only some minor cursing. One issue, the bottom pan on the rack blew over, knocked over my tripod, and I scratched the piss out of the bottom pan because it went across my tripod. So that's on me, not on Weber. A couple things to note. It says that you should have 2 people to put this together. I was able to do it by myself. I was able to get the bottom legs on. I was able to get this tilted up myself. The holes that are tapped into this cast aluminum bottom where the legs mount were not, they weren't 90%, or I should say 90%. They weren't 90 degree. They were, as they would say, a little cattywampus. And some of the screws went kind of in on an angle, and they were kind of tough to tighten. But otherwise, for the most part, it went together straightforward. And I think anybody who's not afraid to say mass in the middle of this a couple times, I think you could do this by yourself. Okay, so we're around step 14, 15, and I want to bring you up to speed here. These 2 stainless panels slide in place on both sides. I'm not sure if they're splash guards or if they're heat guards. And then at the bottom of the pit, there's this stainless pan that went into place, and it just kind of rests in there on both sides of the firebox. I'm assuming that that is part of the grease and ash mitigation. Now, this is an interesting piece. I thought this was the firebox, but this looks to be like a heat diffuser, and it's pretty substantial. And again, this is an all stainless firebox. It's an upgrade from the SmokeFire. The SmokeFire was not a stainless firebox. Interestingly enough, this just kind of lays in place like that. And when I put it in place, this piece came out. This is a part of the stamping. I don't know if you could see inside there, but inside there are 4 slats that are stamp cut out of this assembly, and that is for the heat to diffuse up through this heat diffuser. So this is a nice piece, and it seems that it's going to direct everything along our flavorizer bar, which I'm assuming is going to go in place right next. We're getting close to buttoning this up. We're getting close to finishing the assembly on this, but this piece, thanks China. There it goes. So here we are at the end of step 24. We have the hood on, and we have the grill racks in place. And I gotta tell you that those racks on the bottom, they have got to be identical to the SmokeFire. I'm gonna take some measurements on them though. This does not roll out or slide out. This is a lift out rack system that goes in place. I probably won't use it too much, The hood on this is fairly substantial. To me, it feels a little bit heavier than the hood that was on the SmokeFire. And it closes very nicely. Weber did a nice job with that. Well, all we got left to do is we need to install the control panel, and that's about it. Okay, so here's the control panel, and looking at it, I see a rubber gasket around here, so I'm pretty sure that this is completely weatherproof. And we have a USB-C connector here, and we're just gonna connect that USB-C and pop it into place. Okay, so I got my less rusty trusty tape measure here, and I'm measuring 17 by 36, so the opening is identical to the SmokeFire. Okay, taking my trusty ruler, we're taking a look at the Firebox here, and this Firebox, using my eye, is 11 inches from your cook surface, which means it's approximately 3 inches closer to your cook surface on the SearWood than it is on the SmokeFire. Here is the SearWood with the Weber crafted insert, which means if you wanted to, you could step up and buy the Weber cast iron sear plate, okay, with the spacer, and boom. But there you go. That is what the brand new griddle is going to look like in your SearWood. And you know what I'm thinking here? I'm thinking I might order one of these just because I'm a sick puppy like that. I think I might order one of these, take it down my wife's shop, get the grinder going, and take off 2 of those ribs. You know, it's been a long day, and I'm not thinking. My 81 students today just wore me out. So as I'm putting the grill grates back in, I'm thinking, wait a second, we have a bigger one here. So now we only have, on this side, we only have about 1 3/4 inch space, and on this side, we have almost 12 inches now we have of room where we can toast our buns and take care of that business over here, because according to Weber, when this is opened, every area on this cook space heats evenly, and we're going to find that out. We're going to do 2 biscuit tests on this. We're going to do a closed hood biscuit test, and we're going to do an open hood biscuit test on this very, very soon. So let's take a look at the ash pan on this. I mean, this thing is huge compared to the SmokeFire. I mean, we're looking at 26 inches of ash mitigation. And if you remember on the SmokeFire, it's just centered in the middle of the pit. 26 inches. And we're looking at 8-inch depth. 26 by 8 ash pan. And here's your grease catch. Okay? And you get 1 Weber tin. And this grease catch is about the same size as the SmokeFire. I can't imagine that it's much different in size. Is this as aesthetically pleasing as the front of the SmokeFire? No, it's not. SmokeFire was nice, built in, tucked in, smooth, all the lines kind of match. Here, you got this hanging down like an oil pan on a GT500. But having said that, again, we're looking at function over form this time. We want this pit to produce. We don't want issues with any mitigation or any fires or anything with this one. We want this to perform better. And some final thoughts here on the SearWood. Unboxing and assembly. 2 people could definitely get this done in about 1 hour and 10 minutes. It took me about 1 hour and 35 by myself, but I was just being extra careful, even though I did have one snafu and scratch up the bottom pan. That's on me. That's my stupidity. Anyway, thoughts on this. They definitely tried to mimic the gas grill's cast aluminum pit. It feels a lot more substantial and heavier than my SmokeFire was. This is definitely not as good looking, and to my eye, as the SmokeFire was. That was just real contemporary and sexy and sleek, but I'm choosing function over form this time. So, you know what, even though this looks like a typical Traeger, Pit Boss, you name it, Rectech, everything, I'm looking for this to be more dependable than the SmokeFire was, and I'm crossing my fingers that we have some good experiences with it. The side table over here is still on back order. I'm looking very forward to that coming in. We're gonna get this burned in tomorrow morning. We're gonna do 2 biscuit tests on it, and I'm excited to do some cooks. I think maybe the first thing we're gonna do, I think we're gonna do a pork shoulder or maybe even a brisket with some Fire and Smoke Society rubs on this bad boy. So, wrapping it up today on a Friday. We'll see you soon with the burn-in of the biscuits. Enjoy your cooks. Sambo out.